and welcome to Drop In, Drop Out, the weekly podcast where a mix of seven gamers come together for an open and engaging conversation all about video games. Tonight, we are reviewing and spoiling the ever-loving shit out of Mafia The Old Country. And I said it's a mix of seven gamers, but this week, for the first time in history, it's a mix of 9 gamers because we're bringing our first 2 guests to the show, Gianni and Shea. Noelle, welcome to the show, both of you.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
Folks in the Dido sphere might know Gianni from being on Spotlight Games. They might know Shea from being in the awesome streamer sphere. But in case they don't, I'd like to learn a little bit about both of you first for our listeners. Gianni, let's start with you because you're next to me. Gianni, tell us a little bit about you, what the content you make, the kinds of things you do, games you like, etc.
Yeah, for those that don't know, my name is Gianni. I am a kind of general all-purpose content creator in the games industry, I guess you could say. I do a lot of long-form review content. I do long-form long plays on Twitch, as well as some short-form content on TikTok and Instagram. I'm really big on the review side of things. So anytime something new comes out, there's a high probability that I'm either giving my first impressions or I'm giving a full-blown review like we are today.
I love it. Shea, how about you? Tell us about Shea.
So I'm a variety streamer. I play a lot of games, mostly RPGs, but a lot of people say I play a lot of Souls-like, so maybe I'm a Souls streamer. But I do love doing a lot of game demos. I love indie games, everything under the sun, basically. So, yeah.
Hell yeah. Shea,
exciting.
Do you often podcast?
No, this is my very first podcast.
First podcast? Hell yeah. We love to see it. Well, thanks for being here. We're happy to have you. A few housekeeping items before we jump in to the Mafia conversation. You are here at twitch.tv/drop-in-drop-out-pod, and we're so happy to have you. If you don't know, we do all sorts of things here. We have multiple podcasts, multiple streamers. We even have a video essayist. Tomorrow night, in fact, the video essayist, Cognitive Clips, myself, and Jerica of JK Games, we're going to be talking about Hollow Knight Silksong, our first impressions, and our game of the year so far. But as a quick pitch for Dido, Monday nights, JK Games podcast, Tuesday nights, Spotlight Games podcast. Every night of the week, it seems, we got Jake Twitch and streams. We have all sorts of juicy content for you. In fact, we're also working on it. For those of you in the chat, I see some new chatters, which is very exciting. But for those of you that have been here, we're working on a jamboree, the hot dog jamboree. You can redeem your points to go toward the hot dog jamboree. We're all going to be wearing, maybe not all of us, some of us are going to wear some hot dog costumes. We're going to be eating a bunch of hot dogs and playing Fall Guys. So if that sounds like something to like, throw some points our way for the jamboree of the hot dog variety. But here tonight, we're here to talk about Mafia, The Old Country. Now, you might be sitting there in the audience thinking, Mafia, that game came out what feels like a year ago. It really did. It's been 3 weeks. And here's the thing. I played this game and I really liked it. And no one in Dido was playing it. And I saw Gianni was playing it. I saw Shea was playing it. I was like, I'm making my own destiny. Let's fucking talk about Mafia, The Old Country. And then for those of you in the audience that are new here, if you go to dropin-dropoutpod.com, join the Discord. We have a fun little Discord where we talk about video games, goof off together, and also, as Gianni can attest, all sorts of content creators in there that are coming together to make sweet content. So if that's something you do, definitely join the Discord. But I want to say hi first to our new chatters. We got Nails, first time chatter. We got Aphotic Soul. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but I hope I am. We got, oh no, Cheens in queue. I hope I'm saying right. Welcome to the show. And then, of course, we got our sweet regulars. We got Bama Bro with the first. We got the Dan Good Show. We got Kayla. We got Mr. The Human Plays. We got Ice Core Weekly. We got Danny Glam. We got all sorts of beautiful people in the chat. Kayla, thank you for dropping the Discord link in the chat. Folks, I've been what feels like yelling at you for 2 straight minutes. I want to talk about Mafia, The Old Country. Shea, I'd like to start with you.
Okay.
with some high level thoughts, what did you think about Mafia? Did you like this game? Would you like to give it a score? Where's your head at on Mafia the Old Country?
I did enjoy it. I did enjoy it. However,
Uh-oh.
I wouldn't rate it like super high. Like it's not a 10 out of 10. I'd rate it a 7 out of 10.
Okay.
It's the gameplay was fun for the most part. I didn't like the stealth missions. I didn't like the shooting missions,
Sure.
but that's just how it is. And I feel like this was a solid 7 out of 10 because I don't know, a lot of game developers like aim to make a game of the year like a 10 out of 10, 40-hour plus game. It was short and sweet, you know?
Yeah.
7 out of 10, solid.
Hell yeah.
That's
We
all I
love it.
needed.
7 out of 10. A lot of people out here on these streets saying a 7 out of 10 is not worth playing. You're going to learn today. A 7 out of 10 is worth playing. Gianni, what would you give me Mafia? What were your high level thoughts of this game?
So I actually gave Mafia an 8.5 in my own review. I loved Mafia The Old Country. It was one of those things where it was by no means a perfect game. I definitely have my share of nitpicks and gripes with it. But it's one of those ones where like even the things that were probably accidentally wrong felt intentional, if
Sure.
that makes sense.
Does.
I know there was a lot of gripes about like some of the gunplay, which I actually really enjoyed for what it was, because I kind of like that like archaic feel to the gunplay. It felt like it almost like fit the era of the game. I loved the story. I loved the cast. The whole vibe of it. Maybe it's the Italian bias in me. I don't know, but there was something about seeing the Italian countryside that was so awesome. But yeah, I mean, to echo a lot of the similar sentiment, I did have some issues with, you know, the open world aspects of the game, which I'm sure we'll jump into. But overall, I thought it was a really solid game. It reminded me a lot of like the Max Payne's and Dead to Rights of my childhood.
Sure.
Those kind of like cover shooter, you know, shorter campaign games of like the early 2000s. And it just really did it for me.
I love that. Yeah, I'm like right between both of y'all. I think I landed an 8 for this game. I think when I first finished it, I would have said it was higher than that. Maybe I would have even said it was a 9. But the more I'm just such a little recency bias slut where like I like a game and I'm just like so hot on it. I'm like, you guys have to play this game. It's so good. And then a week later, I'm like, it was fine. I just get excited to talk to my friends about video games. But this game, now that I've sat with it for a couple weeks, I think I landed an 8. I think that there's so much good here. I think it's the kind of thing where when we first saw it, I was like, oh, more Mafia. Interesting. I don't know that we necessarily need more, but I am very interested in like the older setting, with it being early 1900s in Sicily. I like that they're kind of trying to make this like older, like Godfather 2 type. Let's go to the past. Like, let's not tell what you would expect to be a Mafia story.
Yeah.
And then, as I learned more about it, I was just more interested it's only like 7 to 8 to 9 hours. Love that. It's like, it's get this like middling budget because they just wanted to get a good game out. I love that. And I agree with both of you that like there are issues with this game. I think for me, I had a few technical issues, which like, you know, I get over those, but there were some like design elements of certain missions where I'm like, okay, I don't know that we necessarily need to be chasing after somebody and shooting them from a car again. But I just really enjoyed my time. And I think a lot of it had to do with the narrative. I think something that neither of you really touched on is I really loved the narrative of this game, which, you know, we're going to get into a spoiler cast in the back half of the episode. But I think even though, and, you know, I'll be spoiler free, even though this game story can fall tropey at times, forbidden love, coming up in like a mafioso type environment and like trying to go against the like what you're expected from your family and all these things, and like wanting to kind of make a name for yourself, these tropes that we see in like any sort of gang type storytelling, especially mafia type storytelling. But for some reason, there was just so much heart in these characters and these stories. I loved Enzo. I loved Isabella. That's like, I don't care. I don't care that we've seen this story 1,000 times. I'm locked in. And so, yeah, I think for me, I landed an 8. I think it's a great video game. I totally recommend it to anybody that likes a AAA feeling kind of narrative forward action game. I think even though there's issues, I definitely really recommend this game. For either of you, Shea, let's start with you. Have you played a Mafia before, or was this your first Mafia?
This was my very first one. Yeah.
Playing this, are you inspired at all to play others in the franchise?
Probably, because probably a spoiler, but one of the characters overlaps with another game, so in the series. So yeah, I would probably play another one.
Yeah, I like that. Gianni, how about you? Have you played Mafias before? And if not, would you go play them now after The Old Country?
Yeah, I have not played a Mafia game. But I honestly, I think what got me here was when I heard 13, 14-hour campaign, I'm like, sign me up. Like, if anything is that reasonable in its campaign length, I'm there. So that's really what brought me to Mafia The Old Country. And now that I'm in, like I said this in my review, like as soon as I rolled credits, I went and bought the definitive edition. I haven't picked it up yet, but I'm like really excited when I finally do get some like downtime. I've heard Mafia 2 is a really, really, really good time. So I mean, I've heard they're all great. I know there's some middling reviews of Mafia 3, but I'm really excited to jump into the franchise now that I've beaten this one, because I loved Mafia The Old Country for sure.
This is what I would say. So I played all of them.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, and now The Old Country. And I feel like The Old Country for me is the best singular package where like Mafia 1, I think, has a really interesting story, it being the first in the franchise. It echoes in some ways the story structure of The Old Country. 2 is probably the strongest of the time back then compared to now, in that the gameplay takes a lot of kind of steps forward in that way. 3 had a really, really strong story, and like the rest of the game sucked. Like it was just a really, really bloated open world. Not even bloated, empty. In fact, the opposite of bloated. Really empty open world, a lot of performance issues. And I just feel like for this game, even though it has like little bits of everything that I just said, like some of the open world feels empty. There's some performance issues. There's some like other gameplay things, but overall, like I feel like all of them are still like at the highest that they have been so far in the franchise.
It almost sounds like what you're saying is like it kind of like incrementally increases on all the little gripes, all the big gripes about those older titles, which
I think so.
I think that's great. If that's the case, then I think they did what they set out to do.
Yeah, and it's the kind of thing too where I think I'm excited to hear that both of you are interested in going and playing other games in the franchise, because as I roll credits on this game, my fear is that we don't get Mafia again. Like we both, all three of us follow the games industry. We see that every time you wake up, there's layoffs. Every time you wake up, a game has been canceled. And I just always fear when a game comes out, that's the last time we'll ever see that franchise.
Yeah.
And so to hear that, and it seems like this game's selling really well. So that's exciting for me.
Unless you're Square Enix, then it's
unless you're Square Enix, in which case there is nothing that ever is good enough.
Kingdom Hearts 4, trust.
So 20 million copies.
Before we jump into the story, because I think there's a lot to discuss with the story, I want to talk about the gameplay. We all kind of like touched in the gameplay a little bit about things that worked or things that didn't. Gianni, let's dive in a little bit more on the things that worked for you. What did you like about the feeling of the gameplay in Mafia The Old Country?
Okay, so if we're talking just gameplay specifically, first of all, I love them. This is such a nuanced conversation, right? Because Mafia The Old Country is like two games like in one, in the sense that it has like this open world structure and it has this mission-based structure. I think the straightforward mission-based structure that Hangar 13 did is so spot on and it's so perfect. I think that like I said earlier, like the gunplay feels archaic, but I feel like that like lends itself to the feeling that they're going for. Was it intentional? I have no fucking idea, but
sure.
It made sense. Like it was like with the weapon sway, and it was kind of like a little bit floaty in a weird way, but like all the guns felt different, all the weapons felt different. Like, you know, even between like the different rifles and the different shotguns and the different pistols, like everything felt different. So I felt like there was a reason I found myself like, if I was going guns blazing, like I'm constantly picking up new things, switching out to this thing. there's this like high, I hate the phrase high octane, but like that's the best way I can describe it. Is like when you're in these like guns blazing kind of like moments of the game.
Yeah.
I just was like, okay, I'm switching to this, I'm ducking over here, and then I'm switching to the next thing, and then I'm picking up this thing and putting this thing down. You know, it's a fun vibe. The stealth mechanics I kind of like wrote off in the beginning because I thought it was like kind of like simplistic, but I had this moment like probably about 3 hours into the game where, because I would just kind of like, I would just like go from place to place. Like I kill a guy, dump him in a box, kill a guy, dump him in a box. And I was doing the same thing over. But then I got to a point where I'm like, why am I doing that? Like it's taking way too much time for me to do that. Right. So I started kind of like, yeah, I would start like leaving people. I would start leaving people. But then I realized like when you leave people, the people that you skip that are still walking around, they kind of start freestyling a little bit, and they start walking in different places.
What's this guy doing dead on the ground?
I'm like, Grandpa, like what? So it's just, it's like this, it is this fun kind of like, you're kind of like, you have this weird sense of urgency in these missions that I think is really good. I also fucking loved the driving missions.
Sure.
And I wish there was more of them. I really, really enjoyed the races. I loved all the driving. I like driving around in the few moments where you did kind of have that like respite from the missions. I really, really enjoyed the driving stuff, and I hope we get more of that. But yeah, overall, I thought the gunplay or the gameplay felt good. They just maybe bloated it in ways that they didn't need to with some of the open world stuff, some of the collectathon stuff, things like that.
Yeah. Shea, how about you? Anything that Gianni didn't touch on that you want to add to the gameplay side of this game?
The gameplay side? Well, I thought, okay, have you guys played Indiana Jones, The Great Circle?
Mm-hmm.
I have not.
It reminded me of that with all the sneaking and the gunplay, because you're calling it like super archaic. It felt exactly like Indiana Jones and Red Dead without the eagle eye.
Oh,
but the stealth parts, I wish I could just stealth everywhere, and then as soon as it was like scripted to kill everyone, I kind of crashed out. I was like,
really? Yeah.
I just want to like sneak through the whole place, but did it. I had to turn down the difficulty. No shame. But just once
yeah.
to get through it. But, and again, I'm a bad shot, but that's fine.
We're not judging.
Yeah. And then I guess the driving missions were pretty good. I liked the one with Cesare and like their night owl where they were driving around. But the races kind of stressed me out. And then at the very end, you win. Like it's scripted that you win. But it was good.
The races left a little to be desired.
I thought I was really good, you guys.
Yeah.
Only because the problem I agree with Gianni. I thought the driving felt good, and like also the graphics of this game of like the countryside. I was telling Rose, it felt like I was on vacation playing this game. Of like it looked so realistic that it really felt like I was in Sicily. But there were times with the driving that the checkpoint systems were just really bad, especially with the driving, where I would be like 5.5 minutes into this race and then I crash.
Yeah.
And fucking blow up the car. And I got to start the whole thing over. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Good at least that the racing was mostly fun. It's just like, okay, come on. We can't like pick up maybe on lap 2 at least.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I agree. I think for the stealth, I think that was the one part of the game where I just had to get over it in terms of, I felt like it broke my immersion a ton. Like what you were saying, Gianni, of the people finding the bodies and stuff. I felt like you could really cheese the stealth, but like sometimes cheesing a game is fun. Where like, okay, I put someone in the box and then I go kill somebody else or knock them out. I go put them in the box and now the box is empty. Where'd that other guy?
Oh, yeah.
Well, whatever. I don't care. It's a video game. Whatever. I'm just here to have fun.
Into the void.
You're right. But I think even though there were some parts of each of the mission structures that didn't vibe with me, I thought the pacing was very strong, where I never felt like I was doing too much of one thing in a row. Or like that was always an issue I had with like older Assassin's Creed games, where you're playing this, you're Ezio Auditore da Firenze, and you're going through Rome, and you're doing these missions, and then all of a sudden they'll put you in this mission where you have to stay like 20 yards, no more, no less, from a person, and it's like, this is just totally like halting my progress, and it's just not fun because I can't figure out how to win. And so like that was never an issue, where it was at least winnable, and like it was understandable, and it was always very clear what it wanted you to do, which I enjoyed. There were just a few times where it's like I feel like they could have maybe elevated some of the gameplay elements.
Yeah.
But when I would start thinking that, I would get into these just beautifully acted or written segments of the story. So unless there's any final thoughts about gameplay, let's start talking about some story and characters. I mean, are we all in agreement that this story rips, or is that just me?
I really like the story. The story was great.
Yeah, I think you touched on something too, Patrick, where like it's tropey. Like it's is it anything new? No. But like what's new anymore at this point? I mean, not to say that there aren't original ideas, but like how much can be really new when we're talking about it's a mafioso, story set in the early 1900s. Like there's only so much I can do. Did they make those tropes work in its favor? And I think they nailed it. And I think a lot of it falls on the cast.
Yes.
I think that's like a huge part of it, but yeah, it's tropey. I agree, but like it's not bad tropey. The tropes are executed well, in my opinion. I know some people might disagree, but I thought the story tropes were great. They hit hard even when you were like, and there were some unexpected moments, which I know we'll get into in the spoilers, but even the ones that you saw coming a mile away, like even when they happen, you're like, oh, okay, they nailed it.
Yeah.
I agree. And a couple comments in the chat, which I've neglected the chat, to which I apologize. We've gotten some subs. We had I think Cirrus subbed. I think Dan Goodshow subbed maybe, or he did bits. We had a Yuhula sub. You guys are honoring us. We have Dazzling Wolfie with the follow. But the chat also making some very good points. Cirrus right now. I mean, good food is good food. I won't complain in terms of tropes. And High School Weekly saying specific genre games like this have to hit certain tropes because it's an audience expectation. I mostly agree with that, but I think ultimately, this game has kind of pointed out something to me that maybe is obvious, but it's just something that I've not really actively thought before. Of like, if something is tropey, or if something is like you're seeing it coming from a mile away, I think there's something to be said that it doesn't matter if you love the characters. And I think for me, that's what this game did. The core, like 3 or 4 characters of Enzo, Isabella, Luca, and I guess Don Teresi, Cesare, like kind of all of them, I was so invested in, and the performances were so good that we'll get into spoiler stuff later, but like there are things that I saw coming from a mile away. But I was like, I just want to see how it plays out, because I'm so invested in the journey of Enzo and Isabella and their this love that they have that obviously, I mean, she's the Don's daughter. They can't be in love, but what if they can? And what if it works out? Like those are the kinds of things that I think this game did really well. Did either of you guys have like a favorite character? Shay, did anybody really jump out to you as like, I really fuck with that character?
My real favorite character was the volcano.
Sure.
Mount Etna, beautiful. Like the menacing volcano just waiting to explode.
Yeah.
Amazing. But
that's really good. I love
also loved Luca, Isabella, Enzo.
Yeah.
Luca was very sweet to us the whole time.
He really
took
was.
Enzo under his shoulder or under his arm. It was good. Yeah. He was so nice.
He was. I just Luca, he deserved better. We'll get to it. Yeah. Light spoilers to suggest he didn't get what he deserved. Gianni, how about you?
I loved Luca. I think he kind of takes on this big brother role, this kind of mentor role. And one of the cool things about this game is like it's not like a glorified mafia story where it's like, oh, look at the glitz and the glamour. It's like, no, these people are like shitbags. Like they're not good people, right? But Luca's like the one person, and Enzo for that matter. Yeah. Luca's like the one person where you're like, you don't ever get that vibe from him. And I think that's why I just liked his, like, he kind of took on this like unofficial big brother role. Yeah. Which I thought was awesome. And I also love Luca's wife. I thought
Yeah.
Luca's wife was
She's
awesome.
she's my honorable mention.
Yeah, it just reminds me of like my
what's her
own
name?
family dynamic. So
Sure.
there was just something so sweet and so endearing about Luca's wife.
Her name started with a
Vi-
V, I believe.
Victoria
Val-
or
Victoria.
Valentina.
Oh,
Valentina.
Valentina.
That's
Valentina.
what it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah. I liked, and her relationship with Isabella, and then
Mhm.
eventually Enzo. I was like, oh, I love this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think Luca was a standout for me. I also, even though not a good guy, very clearly not a good man, Don Teresi. First of all, can I just say, very attractive. The character artist,
Good looking dude.
Hanger 13. I don't know if that's what that actor looks like 1-to-1, but that is a good looking man. But there, yeah, I don't know. I feel like we've seen so many like mafia bosses. We've seen, you're the obvious ones. We got Tony Soprano, we got Don Corleone. Like we have all these, but there was something different that Don Teresi brought to the table. This just like really like I don't even know.
Menacing.
This like menacing,
He's imposing.
like
Yeah.
grit that I really fucked with a lot. And there was this like slow build of like, as we've mentioned so many times, this forbidden love that Enzo wants to be with Don Teresi's daughter. I was so terrified of what was going to happen whenever eventually Don Teresi would find out, because we all know he's eventually going to find out.
Yeah.
Because like just some of the things he would say throughout the game, I'm like, man, this is really not going to go well. And you have that hope that like maybe it does, maybe Enzo earns enough cred with the Don that it just works out. But yeah, I thought he was so good. And then also shout out to, I really hated the character, but I think that is always a good thing too. Tino.
Oh,
Tino.
dude.
What a fucking scumbag.
Watch
I know
out
exactly
for
where you were
him.
going, dude.
Such a fucking
Insane.
scumbag. There's things I want to say about him in the spoiler side of the conversation, but such a I thought gripping character of like every time he was on screen, I had this visceral like, oh, I can't fucking wait to give a fucking piece of my mind to Tino. This guy is such a fucking dick.
And there's a moment too in the beginning where like it's when Enzo first gets to the house and they're all kind of having that dinner and Luca makes the comment about him like scarfing up his food or whatever. And they immediately like, look over at Tino and he's just kind of sitting there like judging everyone. And it's like, they know, and there's no word spoken, and then they do jump into it, but like the second you see Tino, you're like, this guy's an asshole. Like we know it.
He's the guy you got to watch out for.
Yeah, and it was the kind of thing too, where like I know that it's like story beats and it's getting from point A to point B, etc. But there were times where I'm like, how does Tino know this? How did Tino figure this out? I really don't like that Tino just knows this somehow, but it just like added to the fuel of my fire to want to just
on his own
take
side
him out.
adventures. Yeah,
exactly.
Those things out,
Yeah. Any other character standout things to talk about? I think we're about to get into spoiler territory. I feel it coming. I feel like we've wanted to dip our toes in spoilers a few times already, but any final thoughts on story or characters before we do so?
I want to dive into Cesare once we get into spoilers because I think
I think let's do it, because I think next on my kind of topic idea is standout moments, and I don't know that we can really talk about standout moments in this game and more story stuff we obviously want to get to without spoilers. So heads up to anyone in the audience, whether you're here live or listening, we're going to spoil the game. But let me also just say, as like a general note, if you're like, I don't love spoilers personally. If people start saying, oh, you're going to spoil this game, I'm going to bounce. Yeah. You're going to see everything coming from this game. Like, we're going to spoil it for you, but like if you play this game, I'll be surprised that you're ever truly surprised that anything this game does. So take that with a grain of salt, but I'm not going to force you to stay because I physically can't. But this isn't like we're spoiling The Last of Us, let me just say. So last call, last warning. If we have any mods in the chat, if you could throw up like a spoiler pinned comment, I would appreciate that. Otherwise, I can do it in a couple minutes. Spoilers, standout moments. What? Shea, any like knee-jerk reaction? What's like one spoiler moment from the game that you're just dying to talk about?
Luca dying.
Oh
my
Luca.
God. I thought that whole scene, I didn't really like see him get shot, but then when Enzo meets up with Don Teresi, like carrying Luca. I'm like, is that Luca? Like, when did that happen?
Sure.
And then it's like, ugh, he's just in a blanket. Passed away.
Well, and it was the kind of thing too where like there have been so many moments leading up to that moment where like Luca, he's like saying these little things to Enzo, like you got to get out, like you don't
Yeah.
want to be here. It just consumes your life, et cetera, et cetera. There's the comment from his wife, like don't get fucking killed or whatever. Like I don't remember the exact line, but she's like, you're playing with fire. We have a baby on the way, and then. We knew it was coming. That's the kind of thing that I was kind of referencing leading into this conversation. Like
it's the foreshadows.
It's so clear. Like it's like not even foreshadowing. It's like they're telling us full stop that he's about to die. Yeah. But it still hurts because he was the best of us, Gianni.
He was great.
And even the moment too when they're in the bar and I think it's like Enzo's like running upstairs like to grab medicine and do all this stuff. And like the Don's sitting there and like he knows like nothing that they can do is going to be able to like save what's happening. You know what I mean? And you almost feel like Enzo in that moment where you're like, come on, man, but you got to speed it up. Like, and you're like, oh shit. Like there's that realization that you too, as the player, you're like, oh man, it's over, isn't it? Like he's gone. Like, it's and I think that's why like the dynamic between, cause like Valentina kind of starts out as this, like, first of all, no shade to the voice actress for Valentina, but there was a little bit of like a stereotypical play on that character in the beginning that I kind of was like, all right, is this a joke? Like, I don't understand. And then towards the end, once you start diving into those things, the dynamic between like Valentina, Isabella, Enzo, and Luca, it's very much just like parallel between the two. Where you have this couple where they're too far in and they're the example of like what happens when you spend all this time with this family and what happens. And then you have this parallel with the other couple. It was just, so to see Luca die, you're like, all right, what's next? You know what I mean?
Sure, for sure. This is kind of earlier in the game, but light spoilers here, but there's a mission that you have kind of toward the beginning of the game with Isabella, where you're kind of going through the countryside, and then you get to this point where she gives you a camera and like teaches you. There's a mechanic in the game of cameras, like an old school camera. You bring it up and you have to like get the zoom right and I don't know cameras very well, the light right, the like how much light you're letting in, etc. But there's just this like really sweet moment where this is like kind of the first time that they both
watch the hand on the back.
Hand on the back. But this is like kind of the
I got chills. I was like, oh my god, they're in love.
I know it's like that, like early 1900s.
Right there, come on. It hits you in my heart.
Yeah, it's just like this very much like
the look.
Early 1900s, like gender roles very strict, and like she's the daughter of the Don, and so it's like very much like they can't really spend time together, etc. And then they've not touched until this moment, and like that first time that they make contact is her putting her hand on his back, and then it's like, okay, we're in it. Like whatever it is, we're gonna fucking die for this character. Like we will go to the ends of the earth to try to be with Isabella, which I really liked. And then throughout the story, I really liked all the different ways that it ended up playing out. As tropey as it was like, I like this, her trying to fight against just like the system, to want to, as a woman, get to choose for herself and not have to just do what her dad says, because we were still in the time where that's how marriages happened, and especially for someone with power and money like the Teresias had. I really liked that. Was, I think, the first mission in the game where I was like, oh, I'm so locked in to this. Like,
you even have that moment like right after, because Enzo takes such a genuine interest in like her interests, right?
Yeah.
And loves that facet about her. And to your point, like these kind of like gender norms, right? And then they meet up with Cesare and Gennaro, and Gennaro's like, oh, a woman with a camera, like who would have thought? And she's like, oh, next we'll meet a man with manners or something like that. And it was like, it was when I was like, hey, girl, like, all right, I see you. Like, and it's such a like, but it puts Enzo and Isabella's at that point, I guess, just close friendship and bond. It just kind of puts it even higher on a pedestal at that point.
Yeah.
It's a really sweet moment.
I agree. There's also, Shea, earlier you mentioned your favorite character was the volcano.
Yeah.
Something I was like, the first time there was a time jump, it would always go like just the next year. And it'd
Yeah.
be like, 1906, and there'd be this like really loud noise happening on screen. I was like, this is gonna be something. I can't figure out what it's gonna be yet, but
Yeah.
this is gonna be something. And I thought it was so cool that noise ends up being the volcano. And so like all of this is building toward this fallout that eventually happens with Don Teresi, Enzo, and Isabella.
Yeah.
We've jumped ahead a bit. We'll cover some other ground, but for those in the chat that are still here that haven't played the game, Enzo gets Isabella pregnant. They're talking about wanting to leave Italy and go live a life somewhere outside of Sicily. And they're on their way to do so. They have tickets to go to Empire Bay, which is New York City, which is where Mafia 1 and 2 take place. Little connective tissue there. And fucking Tino and Cesare and the gang find them at the train station, take them in, and meanwhile the volcano blows up in Sicily. What's the volcano called, Shea?
Mount Etna.
Yeah. And then like the climax of the game, there's just this fucking volcano blowing up in the background. That's so good.
No one even cares.
No one cares, which was silly.
Isabella has to go to the doctor. The volcano's blowing up, but
it was the kind of thing where the game opens up with you in a sulfur mine, and shit goes awry in the sulfur mine. It's just like, of course there was going to be a fucking volcano that blows up, but honestly I never saw that coming. That was a surprise for me. It was like, oh, and then what a cool like narrative choice for that to be like the through line. Connective tissue was very, very cool. Let's work our way back. I just jumped right to the end. We could always just jump right into the end of the game, but I feel like there's some other moments that we probably want to build up toward to get to that moment. Gianni, do you have anything that you want to throw in?
I have thoughts on the end, but maybe we'll get to it at the end.
Let's save that for the end.
Yeah.
I know one of the things that you had asked me to grab was, you know what? I think we should maybe just like kind of build, but like the end of the beginning of the end. So like with the Cesare betrayal, I feel like we can maybe start there.
So this moment was so, again, we go back to tropes, right? Like when they introduce Cesare, it's so like, it's such the like, oh, he's the nephew of the Don. Like there's going to be this jealousy thing. And, he's clearly going to have beef with Enzo. And you're just expecting it, right? You're kind of like, there's going to be some type of betrayal or just there's never going to be love between these two gentlemen. And then over time, like they kind of develop this real brotherly relationship between the two of them. And it kind of like bucks your expectations. And then you get to the end and there's the moment, right? You get to the end, right? And the family has it out for Enzo that, his ultimate betrayal was getting Isabella pregnant, and they want him out. They want him dead, whatever. And Cesare, surprisingly, to my surprise, takes the side of the Don. Right. Yeah. He's very much like Team Teresi, where he's just like, yeah, no, fuck Enzo. Like, this is the ultimate betrayal. And to me, it was this kind of like bait and switch of you're like, oh, no, he really is like ride or die for the family. Like it's them over Enzo. Right. But then you get to the very end and there's this kind of like tender moment where he goes to kind of like save Enzo. And he's like, it's you and me, brothers to the end or whatever it is. And you're like, oh shit, no, like he saw the light. Oh man, like he's come around. And then he actually stabs him in the back. And you see it on his face, like as it's about to happen. You're like, you know what? So I just found that dynamic was going back to the tropes, right? It just fucks with your head where you're like, this thing that I expected from the very beginning, but then they kind of like almost like, made me believe I was wrong is actually true. Yeah. I thought that was such a fascinating dynamic to be like, again, going back to what I said earlier, it's like at the end of the day, these guys are shit bags. Like they're not good people at all. Right. You know what I mean? And that was like the culmination of that is you have this final showdown with Don Teresi and Cesare just does the thing that you expected him to do 15 hours ago. And that you thought was, he came around on. So I just wanted to touch on that moment because I thought it was
for sure. Yeah,
I felt
was
betrayed.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was surprised at this moment too, because I thought they did a good job of painting Cesare as this, like, he's just going to take the best opportunity available to him type character. And if that means he's going to side with the enemy, he's going to do it because it's going to serve his interests. Because there's this moment a few hours before the end of the game where Enzo kind of is elevated to this like higher status. You know, after Luca dies, he kind of takes the spot of Luca, and Cesare, you know, rightfully so, potentially feels like he was skipped over. And there's this like almost like pseudo animosity between Cesare and
But
Enzo.
even that feels kind of like jokey. Like it doesn't even feel facetious at that point,
for sure,
malicious at that point.
For sure. And then, but then you start to wonder, like, wait a second, is Cesare actually, because, like, you know, you as the unbiased third party, you see this like, yeah, well, of course Cesare wasn't going to be given responsibility. He's a fucking playboy, party boy idiot. But then it's just like, oh, well, but I thought that maybe he kind of understood that and it was like a choice, but then he's like actually really seemingly upset about this. It's like, oh, okay, so maybe, and now I'm starting to get worried about what this character is going to do. And then for him to, show up at the train station, get Enzo and Isabella, I was like, really? I can't believe that Cesare is fucking doing this. And then, I was surprised. Like, Shea, did you expect them to kill the protagonist in this video game? Because I sure didn't.
I had a feeling that they would, and I kind of felt like Cesare would be the one because, like, the whole time he was Enzo's friend, and you know, he gave him his house, I think. And then
you're right.
That's right.
Yeah. So then once Don Teresi made Enzo like his right-hand man, then Cesare started getting like sus, and that's when I was like, oh, he's not really our friend. So,
sure. No, that's fair.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think because also kind of we had touched on it a little bit earlier of there being a little bit of connective tissue to the previous games. There's a character that you like get missions from, and he kind of comes along sometimes, who is in the original games and has like a connection to Empire Bay. And so I don't know. I kind of had this feeling that it would lead us to Empire Bay, and maybe we would get like a spin-off-y type thing of like Enzo and Empire Bay. But then it's like I started thinking of it as like, well, we never saw Enzo and Empire Bay, so I guess he must not live or make it. But you know, we retcon shit all the time in stories. But so I was very shocked that ended up happening. But do we think there is a world? So kind of looking ahead, you know, this game just came out. I don't want to necessarily already be like, okay, Hangar 13, what's next? But the game ends with Isabella with her unborn child going to Empire Bay, and she makes it. Do we think we see more Mafia in Empire Bay? Do you think we could play as Isabella? Like, what do we think's next, Gianni?
This is a tough one, right? Because the knee-jerk reaction, the knee-jerk answer is yes. But the ending is so tricky, right? Because there is this kind of moment where like she starts just like murking dudes and you don't feel good about it. She clearly doesn't feel good about it. So it's kind of like, is she, I don't want to say capable of, because if we're talking about murder here, but like, is she that kind of person that she's going to be, you know, this kind of Enzo-like character? I think having an Isabella-led Mafia game would be awesome, but I almost like bring it to what was the fixer's name? The guy who was like setting them up with all like the stolen goods, and he's like, "Oh, go see my mom" or whatever.
Oh,
the blonde guy.
I forget what his name was.
But we talk about the blonde guy?
No. In the very beginning of the game, you get set up with this like guy who's got all the supplies, and he's like, "You can go talk to my mom downstairs." So like you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Let me find. I'm gonna Google it.
The goofy part of me goes like, maybe Isabella becomes like the kingpin of the family, and you're playing as one of her goons or whatever. But then I was like, I don't know if that's really in her character as well. You know what I mean? So I'm a big fan of like endings and allowing things to kind of just sit where they sit, you know.
Sure.
So I'd be okay with not getting more from this particular family, but I would love to see more Isabella because I think she's a really, really, really interesting character, especially
Yeah.
considering all the things that she went through in this game with, you know, obviously her partner's gone, you know, she's got a baby on the way. You know, her dad is like a scumbag or was a scumbag, you know what I mean? Like she has
For
this
sure.
weird dynamic. Her mother's not around. So she's a very interesting character, I think, to follow up on. But it's more so like you base a game around that, knowing that maybe she's not that person. You know?
Sure. Shea, were you gonna say something?
Well, I don't think she would be like the next Mafia game. Maybe her son will, but
Sure.
I don't think she would like do what the Mafia does because I don't know, knowing Mafia tropes and like how daughters and women are treated in the Mafia, like they're not gonna be anything.
If I may pitch the 2K board of Gianni and Shea for a second.
It's the pitch.
Oh no.
Okay. So we go to Empire Bay as Isabella with her baby. And High School Weekly in the chat asking if we know if the child is a character from a future game. We don't know. It could be, but we don't know yet.
Mhm.
Because like we don't know, does Isabella keep her name? Does she marry and take another?
Yeah.
Unclear.
Because Cesare is still out there.
Cesare's still out there.
Yeah.
Keeping the family business alive, we would assume. Yeah.
And they've said that there's going to be DLC of some kind. I don't know, Gianni. Is it story DLC? Do we know?
They said new missions and new racing. I forget what they called it, but
I wonder
it sounds like
challenge type stuff.
It sounds more like map-based challenges.
Okay. And now, granted, we're not going to go to Empire Bay and Mafia the Old Country DLC by any means. That would, that's just making a whole new game at that point. But I don't know. I feel like with the way that Isabella ends this video game, the love of her life murdered, no longer connected with her family at all, complete new start in the new world in New York City or Empire Bay. I could see her like not Breaking Bad by any means, but like getting that like Mafia style. Because here's the thing, something that I do also really love about this game. We lose Enzo. The last like 25 minutes of this game, playing as Isabella, escaping a burning down Teresi estate because of the volcano. And so often I think of Spider-Man, the obvious example. It makes you play as Mary Jane.
Yeah.
And for some reason, all of a sudden you're playing as a woman and like apparently women can't do stuff. Like for some reason they make it to where just play. I know, God forbid, Shea. But and like all of a sudden the gameplay of that character is just like so different and bad and not fun. I really loved the way that they built the Isabella.
I think that was good.
Gameplay.
Yeah.
It very much was just like stealth, but it felt like narratively it served a really nice purpose. It also, when you needed to actually be in combat, you could. So it wasn't like they were, even though Isabella is not, in the Mafia. But I don't know. I could see her killing some folks in Empire Bay and being the protagonist of a story. I think it could be pretty cool, even if it's like if they go the Uncharted Lost Legacy route, like they make it even shorter. It's a 5-hour campaign instead of a 13, 14, whatever, of just this like romp in Empire Bay as Isabella shacking up with whatever gang in Empire Bay. Could be cool. I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of story left in Isabella. I think I want to know what happens next. I just to go back to what you said, I did have a little bit of a I think the placement of her mission being the literal last thing you did, I think maybe could have been swapped. I think it could have been
swapped.
Yeah, I think it would have like made the ending that more impact, or Enzo's ending that much more impactful. And then we cut to Isabella on the boat or whatever.
There was something though nice about, so Enzo dies and you hear all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's what the sound has been in between years, because Enzo, as he's dying, he's hearing the rampage of the volcano and just like the noise that the earth is making. Cuts to black, cuts to Isabella. And I did really like, it was this like bittersweet of the mission objective for Isabella was something like meet Enzo to escape and get out. And it's like, and like, we know that can't happen.
Yeah, that's
there was something. there was something
Something
interesting
hopeful.
and hopeful about that. I was like, wait,
Hopeful and
Could-
hopeless.
Was he
at the same
back? Is
time.
he back?
right? Could
Yeah.
he survive somehow? But like,
Yeah.
there's no way
Yeah.
he could survive somehow.
That's a good point, because it adds to the impact of you as the player. Let's say you just assume he's gone. Like, it does kind of add to like, this is all for nothing. Like,
Yeah.
she's got nothing to look forward to after this, which makes it even more devastating, I guess.
And
That's
then
a great point.
we kill Tino, we escape, and Cesare comes up, and there's this hope, like, did he bring Enzo to like patch him up or something? And he just gets
Yeah.
out.
Another bait and switch.
Yeah,
Not
and then he just
even a
gets out,
body.
and he's like, and he just, he doesn't say what he did, but we know that Enzo's dead. And like, that at the very least, I hope that Isabella learns that Cesare did it and gets revenge on Cesare, because she leaves Italy thinking that Enzo just died at the hands of her father.
Good point.
Yeah.
Or in some capacity that wasn't being betrayed by his best friend.
Yeah.
So that's
her
how
own
I hope
cousin.
to see. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I
he
hope to
gives
see
her the
something.
tickets too.
Right.
He's
Yeah.
like, get out of here.
Get
Yeah.
out of here. High School Weekly in the chat says, "Ooh, yeah, I like when games and books do that when the viewer/reader has info, characters don't, because you get to see how they react and anticipate that." I agree. It's a really strong like storytelling tactic when we have info that they don't. But yeah, now that we see where she ended up, now I want it to go even further and be like, okay, I want her in Empire Bay. Somebody else comes from Sicily and has information about what Cesare did, and then we have the montage of her suiting up and going back to Sicily and going on a killing rampage to get vengeance on the murderer of her husband, or would-be husband. I don't think they ever got married.
And the selfish part of me would just love to see that setting in this engine, with this storyline as well. I remember back on like the original Xbox, I had the Godfather game, right? It was like an open world GTA clone, and it's around the same time setting wise. And I would love to see this story, which I mean, granted, is Mafia 1 and 2, I guess, but to see it in this engine with this coat of paint, I think would be really cool.
I agree. Something that we never touched on this entire time is the knife combat of this game somehow. And while I did like it to a point, I got so tired of it by the end. And like it was like, obviously we're going to have a fucking knife fight with Don Teresi.
Gotta have it.
But when it actually started happening, I was like, make a different choice. And then not only did we have to have a knife fight with Don Teresi, but his health bar just like kept replenishing, and there was like all of a sudden it was like Dark Souls style. He has like 3 different levels of his boss fight. It's like, what is happening?
Second phase, third phase.
Yeah, there are 3 phases of the Don Teresi knife fight.
A dragon comes out of his
exactly.
He cuts his arm off.
Now that would have been something. Any other final thoughts? I feel like we've really covered our basis here with Mafia, but what have I forgotten? What haven't we talked about that we want to talk about with Mafia The Old Country?
I love the moment of Enzo getting inducted into the family.
Oh, sure.
Nothing specific on that one, but it is it's a cool moment. Like if you grew up watching these kind of like Mafia, films or read books like this, like this is a cool moment of being welcomed into the brotherhood, as terrifying as it is. And they make it feel terrifying. Like this is like a scary moment, but it's an exciting one, and I think that's also pretty indicative of Gianni Santiago, the gentleman who voices the Don. Like he kind of has this like imposing, but also kind of like you look up to him in a weird way, because he is like the leader of this, this family, but it's scary as shit. But you feel excited for Enzo that this moment has come, and even like you see Cesare in the back there, like you're kind of like you those moments start kind of flashing back too when you move forward to the ending. I just thought this was a really, really neat moment.
I agree, and also it's the kind of thing too where this is a really good example of how this game is just really pretty. Like they really put a lot of time and effort into like cinematography and really like cultivating a vibe for their story of it being like in this like cellar, candle lit, and then there's this like ominous, and then we get to it. I'll cut ahead a little bit of the Don like burning this like card of Mary in his hand is like, as long as this burns, if you break your oath, you will burn too. Now he's strong bad apparently.
Yeah,
But it's like, I don't know. I really liked like the
work on
vibes
those
that they would
accents,
make.
Patrick.
Yeah, I know. I just dove in. What can I say? Mr. The Human Plays in the chat. Gianni over here making me want to be a made man. His Italian is showing.
Hey.
Very good. Shea, any final thoughts? Gianni, any final thoughts on Mafia?
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
I am Sicilian. It made me want to play the game since it took place in Sicily. So got to see the volcano, got to see the plants. They were great. I
Hell
thought
yeah.
very artistic.
Hell yeah. Gianni?
It's a great game. Play it. And, Patrick, thank you for allowing 2 Italians to be on your show. I know that was not an easy decision for you to make. But
for those of you that might be listening and all of a sudden now think I'm anti-Italian, it's a bit in our Discord that I'm anti-Italian.
I never thought I'd see this day.
I'm really not. I promise. I promise. Yeah, Shea, Gianni, thank you for joining. Shea, tell the folks at home, where can they find you? Where can they follow you? Where can they get up, stay up to date on the things that you're doing on the internet?
Shea_Noelle, SHEA, like in shea butter, everywhere across the board.
I love that that's the connective tissue is shea butter.
Shea butter.
Gianni, how about you?
You can find me at Gianni DiCrosta. I'm on YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram, Threads, anywhere you are at, I'm there as well.
Hell yeah. And as you might know, but in case you don't, Drop In, Drop Out Pod everywhere is where you can keep up with Drop In, Drop Out. dropindropoutpod.com. Join the Discord. And also on that website, you can find all of the other places we are on the internet. JK Games, Spotlight Games, Cognitive Clips, Jake Twitchin, etc., etc. Did I say JK Games? I think I did. We will be back, as I said, tomorrow night with some Silk Song impressions as well as our game of the year so far. We are going to go join Echo Clo that is currently doing some water park sim later. We'll see. So go show her some love. But until tomorrow evening, bye.
Bye.